In this podcast episode, the host speaks with Dr. Peter C. Gøtzsche, a scientist, medical doctor, and whistleblower who has spent decades investigating the pharmaceutical industry. Dr. Gøtzsche opens the discussion by asserting the controversial but fact-backed claim that the business model of major pharmaceutical companies amounts to organized crime. This is not a casual accusation. Rather, it is based on the repeated and systemic criminal activities these companies engage in, including fraud, bribery, political corruption, manipulation of research, and obstruction of justice. According to him, these actions comply with legal definitions of organized crime under U.S. laws, as they occur repeatedly and are deeply embedded in the industry's fabric. The scale of corruption is staggering. He explains that virtually every bribable position in the healthcare and regulatory ecosystem, from FDA commissioners to top health ministers, has been compromised. These bribes influence decision-making, regulatory oversight, and clinical practice guidelines in ways that prioritize profit over patient well-being. Doctors, especially leading professors and department heads, are often bought through prestigious advisory roles or direct payments, distorting medical advice into marketing tools for drugs rather than genuine care. The podcast touches on how the pharmaceutical industry manages to evade substantial consequences despite billions of dollars paid in fines for crimes. Dr. Gøtzsche points out that the enormous funds spent on lobbying and political donations in the United States make it nearly impossible to hold the industry accountable. Lobbying budgets vastly outpace those of other sectors, with Big Pharma consistently spending hundreds of millions of dollars, more than oil, real estate, or insurance industries. A distinctive feature of the American system, which makes the problem worse, is the allowance of direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical advertising, applicable only in the United States and New Zealand. This drives overprescription and medicalizes normal human experiences. Contrasted with European models, where direct advertising is banned, Dr. Gøtzsche highlights how American health spending is disproportionate, nearly twice that of Europe, with worse average health outcomes. He attributes a significant portion of this disparity to aggressive drug marketing, overdiagnosis, and overtreatment. Delving into healthcare system dynamics, Dr. Gøtzsche underscores the benefits of strong primary care with an emphasis on family doctors, as opposed to the American skew towards specialists. Studies cited show that areas with more family physicians have better overall health outcomes and lower mortality. Family doctors' familiarity with patients enables them to resist overdiagnosis and overtreatment that specialists, guided rigidly by guidelines and pharmaceutical influence, are more prone to. This discussion naturally leads to the issue of overmedication. Dr. Gøtzsche highlights prescription drugs as the leading cause of death in developed countries, surpassing heart disease and cancer. While this claim is debated and not officially acknowledged by the CDC, he bases it on detailed analyses of drug trial data, observational studies, and the high prevalence of harmful side effects from common medications, including opioids, arthritis drugs such as Motrin, and psychiatric medications. The risks are exacerbated in elderly populations, where drugs like antidepressants increase falls, fractures, and mortality. The conversation shifts into psychiatry, which Dr. Gøtzsche views as a tragic chapter of medicine. He criticizes the entire field for causing more harm than good, largely due to the synthesis between psychiatric practice and pharmaceutical business interests. The discipline's reliance on diagnostic manuals like the DSM has pathologized normal human behaviors, expanding the market for psychiatric drugs through increasingly broad and sometimes arbitrary diagnoses, such as adult ADHD. Dr. Gøtzsche recounts an anecdote where multiple adults, including non-patient individuals, tested positive for adult ADHD upon applying diagnostic criteria, illustrating the diagnostic criteria's failure to delineate pathology from normal variation in behavior. He emphasizes that many diagnostic labels serve as gateways for unnecessary and potentially harmful drug treatments. The consequences are serious. Antidepressants, particularly SSRIs, have minuscule effects on depression beyond placebo but cause widespread side effects, including permanent sexual dysfunction and increased risk of suicide and aggression. Further supporting these observations, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is quoted regarding the correlation between psychiatric drug use and mass shootings, noting concerns that overmedication contributes to increased violence in the U.S. Dr. Gøtzsche concurs, citing evidence from clinical study reports that psychiatric drugs can induce hostility and aggression, information often censored or omitted from published studies. Vaccines represent another controversial topic in this discourse. Dr. Gøtzsche clarifies his position as nuanced. He acknowledges the critical public health value of certain vaccines, such as the measles vaccine, but challenges others, especially the aggressive mandates around COVID-19 vaccines and HPV vaccines. Having studied vast amounts of internal documents, he exposes fraudulent behavior by pharmaceutical companies like Merck regarding safety data for their HPV vaccine, Gardasil. He expresses serious concerns about adverse neurological effects unreported by Merck during clinical trials and questions the modest benefits of widespread HPV vaccination when effective cervical cancer screening programs already exist. This perspective is contextualized amid wider public skepticism, with trust in government agencies, mainstream media, doctors, and global health authorities greatly eroded during the COVID-19 pandemic, partly due to censorship and politicization. Despite this climate, Dr. Gøtzsche voices guarded optimism with new leadership changes at institutions like the NIH and reconstitution of vaccine committees, signaling potential for improved transparency and better science-based guidance in the future. Another overlooked trauma in healthcare, according to Dr. Gøtzsche, arises from overly enthusiastic cancer screening practices. His meta-analyses and Cochrane reviews have highlighted that mammogram screening does not reduce overall mortality and leads to significant harms through false positives, overdiagnosis, and overtreatment, including unnecessary mastectomies. He advocates for re-evaluating widespread screening programs in favor of approaches that balance benefits and harms more judiciously. Moreover, Dr. Gøtzsche warns against common over-the-counter drugs such as NSAIDs, Motrin, Advil, and Tylenol, which are widely perceived as safe, but in fact contribute to a high number of deaths, especially due to cardiovascular issues and serious gastrointestinal bleeding. This contradicts typical medical advice that often encourages taking multiple such drugs concurrently, leading to increased risk without clear additional benefit. Throughout the interview, Dr. Gøtzsche repeatedly stresses the importance of educating patients and empowering individuals to critically assess their medical treatments. He encourages people not to accept prescriptions blindly, but to research benefits and harms using accessible and reliable resources. His book, Survival in an Overmedicated World, supports laypersons in understanding medical evidence and making informed decisions. The podcast ends with reflections on the challenges of rebuilding public trust in medicine and health authorities. Dr. Gøtzsche acknowledges that while corruption and harmful practices have marred the system, new leadership and continued transparency offer hope. He advocates for freer scientific debate and regulatory reform to protect individuals and ensure that medicine returns to its fundamental mission, healing rather than profiteering.